My name is Patrice Valentine. Again, I'm the owner of Profusion Web Solutions. Same intro that I've done for the last, I don't know, 14 weeks or so that we've been doing this. We are doing these weekly 30-minute digital marketing breakdown webinars so that we feel like we can, keep our audience informed as to what is going on in digital marketing right now. So for this session today, we've kind of opened it up to our audience, sent out emails, doing some Instagram posts, and just collecting questions from our audience, from our customers, from potential customers in regards to anything digital marketing related. We said anything was in fair game here. So we were talking AI, email marketing, hosting, web design. I think we have a little bit of everything in this presentation today or in this Q&A session today. So we'll just go ahead and jump in. This came from one of the registrants that's on the call today. Question was, how often should I email my list without people unsubscribing? And one thing I really want to drive home with email marketing. So this question is specifically asking about sending a message via email marketing. That could be logging into MailChimp and sending an email using a service like Constant Contact. I want to be very clear that that is what we're talking about here, sending some type of educational type email to your list, kind of giving them information about your product services, about industry trends, what's happening in your industry, things like that. This is not talking about transactional type emails. So if you have placed an order and you get your order notification or you get a shipped notification, we're not talking about those type of transactional emails. We're simply talking about email marketing. So things like newsletters, things like that. This was a bit of a debate that we actually had in our company meeting yesterday, talking about if we don't want to email out too much right now, we're currently sending 2 emails per week, but looking to potentially increase that to 3 based on our messaging because there is so much happening in our industry. That begged us to ask the question internally, even of how much is too much to send. And we had a really good reminder of people don't unsubscribe because the emails are coming too frequently. They typically will unsubscribe because the content isn't relevant to them. And I'm here to tell you that's okay. If people are not resonating with your messages, it's best that you get them off your list, that you're not sending to them, that you're not, cluttering their inbox. If they're not finding your information relevant and engaging and important, then it's good that they're saying, hey, this is not for me, and they're going to opt out of that. So I used to take unsubscribes very personally. It was an ego hit for me if someone unsubscribed, and now it is kind of one of those things of that's fine. They're self-selecting to no longer receive these messages because it didn't bring them value, and that is okay. So don't be afraid of people unsubscribing. If you are, sending them that 1 to 3 times per week, if you have kind of a more frequent cadence, you can offer the option for people to choose how often they would like to receive communications from you. So if you just happen to hit somebody on one of those days where your inbox is just too damn full and you want to get rid of every unsolicited message that's in there and you're just unsubscribing, if you hit somebody on one of those days, give them the option. So when they hit unsubscribe, take them to that page that says, hey, would you like to unsubscribe completely? Would you like to reduce frequency? Would you like to only hear about X, Y, or Z? So give the user the ability to say, you know what, I'm just getting too much from you if you're afraid about frequency being the culprit for the unsubscribes. A good baseline for how often you should be emailing, 1 time per week keeps you at the top of mind of your list. So if you're sending relevant information, send out 1 time per week. 2 times per week if you're looking for kind of stronger, consistent growth, and if your content is strong. So when we're looking at sending 2 to 3 emails out per week, we're sending educational information. Things are changing very rapidly for small business owners online. So we have a strong baseline of content to send from. If you are looking at sending a daily digest of information, that's only going to work if you have consistently valuable or time-sensitive type information to send out. News sources, places like that that have things are changing daily that you need to know, then that is something where you can look at sending daily. On the flip side of that, if you're only sending once every 6 weeks, once every 8 weeks, you actually could be creating a bigger problem in that people are going to forget who you are, where they signed up to your list from, where they met you maybe. your email is going to feel more random, and then unsubscribes might spike then because it just feels like inconsistent messaging and they're not sure what type of information to expect from you. Right now, we email every Tuesday and every Friday. People have come to rely on the consistency of those posts. They know they're going to get a Tuesday and a Friday email from us. And you kind of want to train your audience to know what to expect from you, to know that, oh gosh, we didn't get an email from Profusion on Friday. That's strange. I usually get that and get some value from that email. So you want to try and build that consistency and that base in emailing. So decide on a good cadence for you, one that you can consistently stick to, and then make sure that it's not too infrequent that people are going to be confused when you actually do send them that mail. So great question. Another question here came in was, do I need to update my Google business profile every week for it to matter? We've talked a lot about Google business profile and how your Google business profile, which is your maps listing, your maps, MAPS, in the Google Maps section, your maps listing for your business. That's what your Google business profile is. It allows you as a business owner to be able to have some control over how Google sees your business. So you can put pictures, categories, your hours, your contact information. You can list your products, services, and then you have an update section in Google Business Profile. That's what this question is alluding to. Do I need to update the post section every week for it to matter? I would say in what we have seen so far with our Google Business Profile optimization and management, weekly is even a couple of times a week is actually the sweet spot, but you want to be consistent about it. So you want to make sure that you are posting information that might have one post that's educational. We tend to post things that are in relation to our email marketing that went out. So it all kind of becomes a cohesive, if you see our social media posts, it'll be about one thing. If you see our email marketing, it'll be about the same thing. If you look at our Google business profile, it'll have a similar message all for that week. So we tend to do something educational, add a couple of new photos, hope to get 1 or 2 reviews per week that we can respond to. And so we're constantly in there at least a couple of times a week, updating information in Google Business Profile. Why this matters. It shows that your business is active and maintained. Google likes to send people to a business that is regularly updating. If your business information is stale or inaccurate, Google is not going to send people your way. This will feed Google fresh relevance signals. So every time you update a product or service on your Google business profile, or every time you add a photo, it cues Google to be like, hey, let's go take a look at this business and see what this picture is, or see what this product is. See if we need to add something, add more information about this business now that we have new information to our repository, so to speak, about what we know about this business. So it feeds Google that fresh, relevant information. And then it gives potential customers something more to engage with before they call you. When we talk about Google Business Profile posting, it's not necessarily it's not the same as social media. So it's not the same as posting on Instagram, where you're hoping to get comments and interaction and engagement. The Google business posts are more kind of historical type information. So if Google needs to go back and be like, huh, I wonder if XYZ company has ever made widgets, they can go back into your posting history and be able to see what information remains there about your business. So it gives a repository of business updates that you have provided to Google, as well as gives potential customers something to take a look at if there's an offer, if there's an event, or something to engage with before they pick up the phone and call you or text your business. If you are updating your Google business profile a few times a week, again, we would suggest doing one post, adding 1 to 2 new photos, getting 1 to 2 reviews. That will put you ahead of 80% of all local businesses, because not everyone is doing that. It's simply going to give you a leg up when it comes to your Google business and your local being found in the local search. So that is your Google business profile. Update it often, update it frequently, update it with information that's relevant, add new pictures, but continue to go in there and make those updates. I would recommend doing it at least 1 time a week in order for Google to really start to understand what you offer, who you are, and who your clients are. All right. This next question is, What do I need to know about ADA compliance for my website? I feel like we were talking a lot about this last year, and with everything else that's kind of happening in our industry, maybe we haven't been talking about this enough this year. But to give you kind of a general breakdown, ADA compliance is the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's the compliance aspect of it that kind of monitors your digital footprint for your business. It simply means that your website and digital content need to be accessible to everyone, including people who are viewing that content that may have a disability tool. So if they have a screen reader that's reading the website, your website needs to be able to follow certain compliance so that they can read the content, they can navigate around the site, and they can use the website just like someone who is not using a screen reader. That goes for your website, for PDFs, and any of the images contained on your website. So all of the content that exists on your site is subject to the guidelines put out by the ADA. Making sure that your website is ADA compliant does a couple of things. It's going to reduce your legal risks. We have seen an uptick in lawsuits for people who are suing companies whose websites are not compliant or not even attempting to be compliant. Um, what happens with these lawsuits is they typically will settle, and then the business still needs to go make their website compliant. So they'll pay the settlement out of court, and they will also need to then go invest in the tools to make their website ADA compliant. So it is just something that if you have a website, if you are in the process of building a new website, you'd want to make sure that you are using the tools and the guidelines in order to make sure that your website is following the ADA guidelines there. It is about making sure that your website is usable for everyone. When we first started talking about this, we kind of likened it to it's just the kind thing to do. It's the right thing to do to make sure that your website is accessible to everyone. We don't want to leave anybody out. I want everyone to be able to come to my website and have the same general user experience. So that is why we kind of grabbed onto it early on, probably back in 2019, actually, is when we first started talking about this. But it's the right thing to do. It feels like the more kind thing to do. You'll notice our videos have transcripts below them, and that way, if someone is, our videos will have captions and transcripts so you can read along to the video, or if you're not even going to watch the video, you can read the transcript. It's all right there to make sure that anyone using our website can get the same information regardless of ability. The other kind of side benefit to it is it does improve your search engine optimization for your website and obviously usability. But if you're, adding transcripts and you are adding unique descriptive tags to every image that you upload, if you're linking things with a description, all that's going to do is also increase your search engine optimization. And Bob just put in a great comment in the Q&A was there is also an ADA tax credit up to $5,000 per year. So do check in with that. If you have made ADA improvements on your website, on your digital marketing, if you've made those improvements, be sure that when you go to file your taxes, if it's this year or if you're still doing 2025 taxes, there is a document that you can fill out that will help you apply for that tax credit. All right. This came from a client. This came from a client that our project manager, William, and I were chatting with yesterday. And she said, why do all the new websites have so much scroll? I hate all the scroll. Why are we including all of this content and why is it scrolling so long? She genuinely had a deep disdain for the new website that we are working on. And that happens. We don't take that as, we hate you and you're a bad person. We take it as, hey, we need to explain the reasoning behind why we designed your website like this. And so when we're talking about a website, we do look at the most websites that you see now do tend to scroll more. They have longer pages. That's what the scroll means is you can look at it on your phone and you're scrolling rather than clicking from page to page to page. Most people are browsing on their phones, and scrolling is much easier think clicking through page to page and going to the menu, clicking on a page, waiting for the page to load, trying to find the information that's on the page. People would much rather scroll than they would click through from page to page. This is a radical change from where we were, gosh, I don't know, 15 years ago, and that we didn't want scroll. I remember we were designing websites to where everything had to be above the fold. Nothing, we didn't want any type of scroll whatsoever. Certainly not a horizontal scroll. That's never been a thing. But we were even designing sites to not have a vertical scroll because people just didn't want that. And now it's like, give me all the information on a page that someone can scroll. Now, you don't want to have the scroll with a bunch of content that is just a block of content. So in order to do a scrolling page well, you want to make sure that people can scan the content. People don't read anymore. They are scanning headlines, scanning bullet points. So you want to make sure that if you are having a longer scrolling page, that there are sections, that the content is broken out into sections with defined headlines. By the way, that's also really good for search engine optimization and really good for the ADA guidelines that we were just talking about. So have the headlines, have scannable content with bullet points, and that will make it so people can scroll, because scrolling beats clicking, can be up to 3 times faster, as the note on my screen shows. It's not about necessarily just having a longer page. We're not trying to just create the world's longest pages here. We're trying to make the experience smoother for visitors who are looking at the website and trying to find information. Ultimately, we're building websites for a human user to use and to find what they're looking for. And if that means we need to make a page a little bit longer and have a little bit more content on that initial homepage, then that's what we have to do to make sure that the website is easy to use and easy to convert on. But I did love that question because it was, again, it's a departure from where we were quite a few years ago, in that scrolling has now become the preferred method of finding content on a page. All right. This one also came from a client. They had recently moved their location, and he said, "Hey, Patrice, I'm just going to go in and update my address in Google Business Profile." And I said, "Whoa, sounds like that would be the easiest thing in the world to do, and you should just be able to log right in and make that change, since you are the owner of your Google Business Profile. However, if you go in and simply log into your Google Business Profile and make an address change, what that is likely going to do is flag your Google Business Profile and make it so that you have to go through what is called a video verification, which also might be the most unuser-friendly thing that Google has ever done in the history of Google. And they've done a lot of very unuser-friendly things. So what the video verification makes you do, and I'll just give you a description from one of our clients, is they moved from a single location. They had a building that they were renting. They were the only occupant in this building. They moved from that to a shared office space on the 4th floor of a 6-story building. When they went in and updated their address, Google said, "Hey, thanks for the update, but what we need you to do is do a video verification. And in this verification, you need to show the exterior signage showing that you are in this building. So somewhere on the building, you need to show the sign and the address, and if you can, get a street name in the video as well. And then in that same video, you need to show us yourself walking into the building, opening the door to your business that also has signage on it, and opening in only a way an employee would be able to. So entering in a key code, key fob, key, whatever you do to open the door, and then show us once you're in the building. All of that has to be done in a 30 to 60-second video. I've never successfully uploaded a 60-second video. Google says that it's too long and it will kick you out. So it has to be done in 30 seconds. Now, imagine my client having to be downstairs on the bottom floor and then showing very quickly signage, running into the building. He had his friend holding the elevator door open for him so that he could get from the 1st floor to the 4th floor and then into his building or into his specific office, all in less than 30 to 60 seconds. It was nearly impossible for him, but this is what Google requires in the video verification process. If you don't have signage, good luck getting actually verified. If you don't have a signage on the exterior and the interior, they simply won't allow that to have an address change. And then what happens is your business will continue to have the wrong address, or it will show, we've had one that has then showed permanently closed. So yes, that location has moved, but they actually shut down the business profile. So all of that is a very long story to warn you that if you have moved, rather than doing what some of our clients have done, which is go in and simply attempt to update the address, which again makes all the sense in the world. You should be able to do that. But here is the right process for updating your address. The first thing you want to do is go to your website and your social media profiles and make sure that those have been updated first. So update the address on your website, update the address on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Then go to Google as a non-logged in user. So I did this in a private browser where I'm not logged into a Google account. And you Google the business name. So Profusion Web Solutions, Ferndale, Washington. Google that up, make sure that the business profile shows up for that Google search. On that Google business profile, there is the option to suggest an edit. Again, I am a not logged in user, simply suggesting an edit for this profile. Suggest an edit, put in the new address, click save. It's going to tell you, hey, user, thank you for the feedback. We're going to take a look at this and we'll let you know if we update it. At that moment, if as a non-logged in user, if you also have a photo of the new location, that's even better. So if you can include a photo, great. If not, that's okay too. Then as the business owner, wait 3 to 5 days. So once the non-logged in user has suggested the change, wait 3 to 5 days as the business owner, and then go in, log into your Google Business profile, and make the update yourself. What this is going to do is Google is then going to look at your website and it's going to say, oh, look, the address was updated 5 days ago on their website, however long ago on the website. The address is updated, that checks out. This other user has suggested that this business has moved and they've included a photo. Isn't that great? So that checks out. And now the business owner is finally saying, oh, yeah, we did move. Here's the new address. So it gives Google additional data points and verification points for it to say, this is actually a legitimate address change and will usually accept your address change rather than having to make you go through the process of doing the video verification. It is the most asinine process, but if you follow these 3 steps, you will have much more success and a much lower likelihood that you actually have to go through that video verification process. All right, it looks like we are close to running out of time, but I'll answer this one real quick. We get this one a lot. And the question is, usually comes in the form of something like, I've seen your Instagram videos, I've read your newsletters, I understand the importance of, SEO, Google Business Profile, all of that. But I have a website already. Do I need a new website or can my current one just be improved? And the answer is, it depends, but that is my least favorite answer of all time. So I at least tried to give you some items here that will help you decide of whether it's you need a new website or the current one can potentially be improved. Now, all of these are taken with a grain of salt. We would want to have a conversation with you to talk about your website before we make this decision, but you don't always need to build a new website. A lot of times, if your website loads fast, works well on mobile, is easy to update, that's going to be a key is we want to be able to go in and add things like schema, add new pages, add FAQ, make sure that the images are optimized. So we want to be able to go in and make updates. If it's already generating leads, that's a good sign. We might be able to work within that system then. And then if it's technologically sound, meaning the hosting environment is secure, we're not dealing with an outdated version of WordPress and a bunch of plugins that need to be updated that's going to break your website. What we don't want to do is add beautiful things and add, a lot of tools to the website only to have it break and have us have to redo the work anyway. So you may be able to get by with what you have already if those things exist. The kind of red flags that are going to make us lean more towards a new website are going to be if it looks outdated and that is hurting your credibility. So if it's a GoDaddy pre-built website that shows the GoDaddy logo at the bottom, and even that I could be talked into depending on the editing tools. But if it looks outdated or hurts your credibility, we're going to want to take a look at building a new site. If it's not mobile friendly and there's no way to make it mobile friendly, that's a deal killer. Because again, we've talked a lot about mobile traffic and making sure that it's working well on mobile. especially with that scroll that we talked about earlier. So if it's not mobile friendly, that's likely going to be a deal breaker. If it's hard or if it's expensive to update, then we're going to want to take a look at potentially putting you on a platform that is easier to update. If you're not seeing conversions, or if it's you're not getting notifications when someone orders or someone fills out the form, those would all be red flags that we might want to take a look at. It's not converting. Is it missing some things that might make it easier for people to actually convert? So again, I know that's not a solid black and white answer, but it is the answer of it's better than it depends. That's for sure. It at least gives you some guidelines as to there is a time we've worked on a lot of client sites where we didn't have to do a full rebuild, but there are times where that is the most beneficial thing to do. Next session is May 6th. That is a week from today, and we are going to be looking at the importance of FAQ content. A lot of you may already know why this might be important, but we're going to look at how to pick the right questions, answers that help build trust, and then placing that FAQ content where it will actually impact conversion. So we want to look at problem-led conversions that help users identify themselves and their problems in the questions that you're putting on your website. So that will be next week. Again, if you have questions that are pertinent to digital marketing, any updates or anything that we've talked about, feel free to send those in. If it's, it needs a real-time answer, we're happy to answer real time, and then we'll likely throw it in the May session for the FAQs. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you very much, and I hope you have a great day.